Hello, thank you for joining me here on the John Nicolson YouTube channel. I thought we could talk about Peter Mandelson because we've all seen the headlines. He's been sacked from his job as ambassador to Washington. I've known Peter Mandelson for a long time. I first came across him as a very young reporter, presenter on Youth Television, when Peter Mandelson was the assistant, the sidekick to Neil Kinnock, the leader of the opposition, who never became Prime Minister. And Mandelson was considered to be a genius, a master of the dark arts, who helped transform the way the Labour Party presented itself. And then, of course, he was elected to Parliament and became incredibly close to Tony Blair, the ultimate spin doctor, the master of the media. Sacked twice, both times for financial irregularities. The first time it was for taking a loan, which he didn't declare, on a house in Notting Hill from a wealthy Labour donor. The second, it was a complicated story, the second resignation, and revolved around access for passports. And in the end, he was cleared over the allegations that resulted in his second sacking. But he was always an immensely controversial choice for any job. Nobody doubted his intelligence or his skills, but it was the way in which he seemed to be inexorably drawn to the very wealthy. He seemed to be obsessed with getting himself a wealthy lifestyle. And after his career in parliamentary politics, he was at the European Union as a commissioner, made a lot of money there, and was in business, made a lot of money there. So he shouldn't have been quite as desperate for money as he appears to have been. But one issue that people knew that hung over his head was his relationship with the convicted paedophile Epstein. Now, Epstein, as we all know, was a man who solicited underage girls for prostitution. His girlfriend is in prison in America for the role that she played, and Epstein hanged himself in his prison cell. He was very close to Mandelson. And despite that, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, appointed him as ambassador to Washington. Now, if you're listening to all the spin at the moment from Douglas Alexander and others in the cabinet, they're saying the same thing. If we'd known today at the time, what we know today about Mandelson, he would never have been appointed. But it's not true. They did know exactly the truth about Mandelson when he was appointed ambassador. First of all, it was in the public domain that Peter Mandelson had stayed in Epstein's house, even though Epstein was in prison for paedophilia. So it was in the public record that he was in prison for paedophilia, that Mandelson had then stayed in his house, even knowing of his conviction. How could he not? He wasn't there, he was in prison. And that was all in the public domain. We've also discovered that the security services, when they were considering Mandelson's appointment, flagged it up to number 10 and said there may be more to come out about this. What's in the public record is bad enough, but there may be more. And number 10 and Keir Starmer ignored that. So they ignored what they knew already, that Mandelson was a pal of this guy and stayed at his house even though he was in prison for paedophilia. They knew that. And they knew what the security services warned. And Keir Starmer ignored it all. And of course, the new stuff that's come out is even more grotesque, which was that he was questioning whether or not Epstein was actually guilty, sending him love, sending him support, saying he's my best pal. It was grotesque. And even more grotesquely this morning, I watched a Labour minister responsible for women and girls' safety refusing to condemn what had happened. Because, of course, women and girls are at the very heart of this. So it's a sad and sorry state of affairs. And Keir Starmer seems to be fighting for his political life because there's rage on the Labour backbenches about this. Yet another catastrophic misjudgment by Keir Starmer and how deeply, deeply immoral it is. As always, I welcome your comments. Please feel free to leave your comments below, and please subscribe. It doesn't cost anything at all, but you'll get updates about all my videos if you do. Thank you for watching.